in our circumstance where we need to survive, and survival is the main focus, that it's possible there is a more direct line to the outside world that kind of gets pruned away into a more useful line into the outside world, and that psychedelics help us kind of access something that is more direct. But that is all. Those are like big question marks.
Sure.
I don't know, but these are things I wonder about and think are possible.
I mean, maybe then as a last thing to ask, do you have much of a suggested future research program for how we should be thinking about these things? If it's true that this perspective suggests different questions, how do we go about answering them? Experiments.
So I do go into this in the final chapter of my docuseries. I think I really think the first place to start is kind of where David Eagleman has headed with sensory addition. And I talked to a participant in a study where they were given an experience of magnetic north. So, Eagleman's work has largely been about helping blind people and deaf people find other ways for their brains to process light waves and sound waves. But this is bringing in a new perception altogether. I also like the idea of scientific endeavors, which, whether consciousness is fundamental or not, will be useful.
Of course, that'd be nice. Yes.
But I think these all kind of will help us get better intuitions for answering questions about how deep in nature consciousness goes. So I think, ultimately, we only have our intuitions for determining where consciousness is to begin with. I can communicate with you and we can talk about our shared experiences. So one was having shared experiences. I can't talk to a person who was born blind about the color red. I mean, there's just no way we're not going to get anywhere. And so having a shared experience is important. And then having the language to be able to talk about those experiences. So I think the more things more human beings are able to perceive and get intuitions for, I think that could be useful to science anyway. All of our perceptions give us some clue about the physics of things, and then we go on from there. But the more things we can actually process directly, the more intuitions we can develop for them. And I'm hopeful that we might be able to experience systems in nature that give us more of a clue one way or the other if they're conscious. And so, we have limited ability to communicate with our pets, but there's enough crossover that we make the assumption that there is consciousness there. And so I think if there would be some way for us to experience and therefore communicate with plant systems or other systems like that, I don't